So 56-22, Indiana advances to the national championship this upcoming Monday. So I guess, Jacob, I'll start with you. When you're looking at this game from a quarterback standpoint, and you're watching Dante Moore play, and people are kind of coming after Dan Lanning. And I mentioned at the beginning of the game, I saw Ryan Clark mention that Dan Lanning needs to be fired. We need to be exposing this guy. And this was like in the second quarter. I'm like, man, the game hasn't even started yet, and it's 28-3 because their quarterback walked out there, threw a pick, fumbled twice, and threw another pick or whatever it was that came after that. So I guess your evaluation on quarterback play for Dante Moore as well as Fernando Mendoza.
I mean, for Dante Moore, it just came out first drive, looked like he was. I mean, to me, it was more of a compliment to like film study to see like what they run early, what they run on first down, first play of the game. It's your typical like, hey, let's get some momentum, let's get some confidence built, a fairly easy throw. And so, I mean, I don't necessarily think it was like bad quarterback play. Yes, it was behind him, that first throw. But I mean, that cornerback was sitting on that route. Everybody, any type of film watcher looked and said like, that was just straight up. He read that route. He did his film. He did his homework, stuff like that. And then I was actually impressed with Dante Moore after the throwing a pick six, being in that environment. And then, that next drive was 12 plays or whatever, all the way down the field, scores a touchdown. And so that's where we all, I think, kind of looked and were like, okay, maybe this will be a game. And then that's when the mistakes started happening. And kudos to this Indiana team in general, because it's like when you make a mistake, it's like immediate they capitalize. And, for Mendoza, I mean, it's kind of, we talked about it in the group, right? He's got more touchdowns and incompletions in the college football playoffs, and it's like, that doesn't even make sense when you say that. And
it took me a second to comprehend that.
Yeah, and for like kind of the hate he gets for being, a little peculiar. I think he gets a lot more hate for like his post-game stuff because he seems a little peculiar and maybe eccentric. But like his quarterback play, I mean, he's a system quarterback, right? Just like, 80% of the NFL quarterbacks. And the system he has right now works, and they play it to a T, and it just seems like Cignetti has done a good job in picking guys that are smart and know where to go with the ball and know when to get rid of it, know when to tuck it, know when not to do too much. And that's essentially what Mendoza's done all year, right? He hasn't really gone in and made these incredibly flashy plays or like super insane throws, but he makes the right read and he gets the ball to where the ball needs to go. And yes, some are a lot of like, very well-placed passes and stuff like that, but like you don't see any crazy highlight reel plays from him. But
no,
he's not known for a runner, and you saw him run multiple times in this game where, hey, it's 3rd and 7, and instead of trying to make something weird happen, he uses his legs, and same with his arm is like, he makes the plays that need to be made, he makes them. There's no like off throw on a speed out route, or there's no ill-timed throw across the middle, or all his touch passes seem to be right there. And so, I mean, you say what you want about him. He seems like his post-game interviews are just, sometimes they come off as fake, but then you see him after that, and he seems just like a likable dude. But his quarterback play has been up there, and I don't necessarily think, go back to Dante Moore, I don't think he was just awful, but it was just like once they got in the hole, it was like, well, now you're one-dimensional, and with that type of team, you can't be one-dimensional.
Yeah. That's the intricacies about football, though. The casual fan doesn't recognize. They say, how in the world does Dante Moore's mesh on that play with the running back get all screwed up? Like, that's terrible on Dante Moore. It's like, well, that running back and Dante Moore probably didn't get a lot of reps. They had been playing 13, 14 games together. That dude's been with the backup. So those are some small things that not a lot of people talk about. But Ryan, your thoughts on the semifinal?
I mean, this game was just, to me, was won at the line of scrimmage and experience. This is a perfect example of what everybody's kind of talking about. Just to go off a different scale of what Jacob was talking about, is Indiana, definitely had the advantage in terms of experience and age, and it showed to me on the line of scrimmage and then at the beginning of the game. They rattled the cage of Oregon early on. And Oregon's I think the average age of Indiana is 24, 25. And then you've got Oregon that's sitting at 20, 22. So I think it was a little bit of that, but I also think it's just that Mendoza's just a better disciplined team than Indiana. Indiana's a more disciplined team than Oregon was. And Indiana's been that team all college football playoff and throughout the year. So Cignetti knows how to get them ready and be in a disciplined position. I mean, they do not make stupid penalties. Like Jacob was saying, Mendoza does not make stupid throws. They just keep that up all year long. For Oregon, though, their thing is that to me, they've always been like this since we were kids, since 2012. They've always been soft. And so if you can push them around, Oregon gets rocked, and they always get rocked. Yeah. So I don't know what it is. They've had coaching changes. They've had different quarterbacks, different teams, Chip Kelly, all these guys throughout the years. But, for as long as I remember, they just get in these big games and get rocked. So I don't know what's up with that. But that was my thoughts on the game.
That's a tough evaluation for me because as I watch Oregon play, and to Jacob's point earlier, it's not really that Dante Moore played awful like the headlines are showing you. I guess my shadow of the script take is when you get yourself down in a hole like that and Indiana capitalizes 4 or 5 times off of those turnovers, the game's done. So you instantly become one-dimensional. There is no more run game. It's why your leading rusher had 5 carries for 80-something yards or something. I think they broke one off early. But I think the biggest thing to evaluate with Dante Moore with Oregon is the drive after the interception. I think if you're an NFL scout, you got to look at Dante Moore's drive, how he responded to it, methodically down the field, finishing the drive, great throw over the middle for a touchdown.
I think I've said that a lot on this podcast too. It's like when you get down that fast, like you're saying, just to add to it, it's really hard. Most teams come out with the script and they'll run 10 plays. And it's really hard when your quarterback comes out play 1 and throws an interception for you to be like, well, what's play 2 on the script? Because now you're down 7-0 and the whole game plan changes. Yeah. So that, and then number 2, I've been seeing a lot of draft, NFL draft, mock drafts that have Dante Moore over Fernando Mendoza. And to me, that just has never made sense. And then they played this game, and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, Dante Moore's only 20.
Where was that talk originating from? That was like hours before the game. They were like, we're going to see who's the better quarter. I'm like, dude, it's the
Fernando Mendoza
quarterback that has playing experience in more than 18 college starts.
Yeah.
It's Fernando.
Those are the only other 2 things I had. So
yeah, the only thing I was going to bring up was the discourse about Dan Lanning. And I don't think it's necessarily, for me, it wouldn't be calling for his job if it was necessarily like, hey, you get to this point, you lose. But the last 2 years, they've been boat raced. Like, they've been
escorted out of the playoffs.
Yeah, this last game was it got embarrassing quick. And then they played Ohio State last year, correct? And got beat and it wasn't close either. And so that's where it's like, it's one thing, like, you had the James Franklin discourse where he couldn't win the big game. I think losing, obviously, but like losing uncompetitively becomes a question. Because like we talked about is like, and it may separate some of the good coaches from great coaches is like, how do you recover? And it seemed like they recovered for a drive, and then all of a sudden it was like, that game just unraveled quickly. And so that to me would be the question is like, not why does he keep losing? Why do you keep getting your ass whooped in these games? And it's just like, because like you beat a decent Texas Tech team, which, I mean, you can ask questions about the offense because Oregon's offense didn't look good in that game. And I mean, JMU, like, you gave up a lot there. Yes, I get the backups for him, but like the offense looked okay in that game. And so that's where I would ask more of the questions like, what's happening here to where like we get to a real game or a more intense environment, and then all of a sudden like the wheels just flew off the past 2 years. So that's just what I would ask about that.